What's up, car freaks? So, don't pay cash for your next car. Couple of reasons why. So, I guess essentially, most people they only really know two methods, right? It's either finance or lease. Which one do you prefer? Do you want a new car? Do you want a used car? Which one do you save more money on? But honestly, guys, all those methods are outdated. Nowadays you have tons of different ways of really getting cars, and I would start looking at things in terms of what's going to get you the best ROI over the long run. That is really the key that's going to take you and really help you ascend. How do you get more value for the money that you're spending on your car? How do you take your value that you're spending, so much of your hard-earned money for? How do you take that value and really push it further and further over the course of years, There has to be a system, there has to be a strategy, a method, a way that you can use to really enhance your progress and success over the long run. And so hence comes along the new system, which is, like what I like to call not really like AI codex, but essentially like your lease codex, your one-stop shop for everything. And so there's really two systems that I see as super valuable. The first one is, instead of financing your car, you should probably lease it. It's pretty controversial. There's whole things into whether it's what pays more over the long run, etc. But hear me out. I have a slightly different take on why you should lease. And the way I start to look at things is, are you getting an exotic car, or are you going to get a car that's not an exotic? And what do I mean by that? Well, if you're really going to be getting a car that's going to be a ton of value, 150K, 200K, do you really want to lease that car? You're going to be paying the depreciation of that car across the 2 or 3 years that you keep it. And that's going to be a ton of money. You're going to be paying the depreciation of that car, and the dealership takes the car back at the exact time when you start, the depreciation curve settles and the value of the car becomes stable. So really, you're just missing out on all the beautiful equity you could have had in that car. So in that case, if it's an exotic, I would seriously recommend a used finance is probably the way I would go about it. And there are downsides to going used finance. Of course, obviously, one would then have to sell the car in the future, maintain the car, do a pre-purchase inspection to actually get yourself that car. But really what I'm starting to realize is that for your average daily driver, the cars that most people want, you probably want to start leasing. Why? Well, if you know what you're doing, you can stack incentives. So that's like easy free credits towards the car. You can then combine MSRP discounts. So you're 10, 15% off the car. And then find a car that has a high residual or a good leasing program. There you go. You really won't be spending a ton out of pocket. You have the convenience of never having to worry about getting rid of your car. You're always going to have a new car. And yes, okay, what if the car cost you slightly higher than just buying a car and keeping it for 10 years? Is that really the worst? I don't know. I guess essentially there's a lot of viewpoints on which one you would want to stick to over the long run. You're always going to be in an awkward position no matter which way you look at it. So you basically are never really stuck to the two tools, which is finance and lease. The way I like to start thinking about it is, am I going to get a car that I need to calculate a depreciation curve on? Or is it really a car that's going to be like sub 100K, sub 150K? Could I do a lease on it? Could I get a really good lease? Is this going to fit my monthly payment? How much am I paying over the long run? And when you start to add these things up, you start to realize, like, I call this like arbitrage codex, right? Where you can start to have a bunch of cars leased that you might not have been able to lease otherwise. Say, for example, an i7, say, for example, a Porsche, and getting these cars on finance, even used finance, you're looking at upward payments of 1,000, 1,200, depending on the car you want. But for the sake of the logic, you would never be able to replicate this type of thing otherwise, where you could have multiple cars in your lot, keep the cars for a while, get rid of them, move them around, Those are major, major, major advantages of having leases, right? As opposed to constantly worrying about maintenance, selling the car. What is this car going to be worth if I drive it 5,000 miles and then keep it for 6 months? And then oh my God, like, what about gap insurance? And what if I crash it? And what if I die? Like, these are things that really just start to add up extra stress. And, everything is possible. with cars. But one thing I seriously like to stress, and one thing I've been learning over time, is that by avoiding unnecessary inconveniences, your life is a lot better over the long run. Like I like to say, or I think I heard a guy say this, or I don't know where I got this from, but I don't like to invite problems into my life. So, say for example, you're gonna go and get a Mercedes S Class. Okay, great, nice car. Apparently, it's really smooth. I've never really driven one, but I have driven an i7, so we'll use that for an example, right? Like the i7, the chassis is nice. You don't really feel too many bumps. It's great, whatever. Um, the regenerative braking sucks when you're daily driving it. I don't understand how anyone drives that car. It's quite a struggle, to be honest with you. Especially coming from a regular engine car to switching over to a car that the second you take your foot off the gas, you're automatically decelerating. It's something that, most people wouldn't be able to handle over time. Now, had you went out and got that on finance, your payment would have been crazy high, 1400, 1500, and you would have kept it, you would have got wrecked on the depreciation, probably lost like 40% of your car within the first 2 years, probably barely even touching it, as opposed to leasing the car. But not just leasing it with an MSRP discount, the arbitrage method, right? So when you get in there and you're getting 15, 20% off your car, all of a sudden a car's MSRP that was 140,000 is now worth 100K, 105K, 110K. Big difference. And if the manufacturer is saying the car's residual is worth 75% when you give it back, debatable. Probably BMW inflates the residual values just to push cars out, but that's a whole different topic. That's good for you because you are paying 25% of a car that's worth 100K, or I'd probably say you're paying the difference of 75 is another way to think about it. And whatever the money factor is, I would hope you have good credit if you're trying to get an i7. Um, that is a lot better because your monthly payment would be looking at 600, 700, 800, maybe even 550. If I don't know, you finagle a really good deal. That's a lot different than getting a monthly payment for 1200, sticking with the car, depreciating technology. Honestly, shit car. And like these things really add up over time. Who's going to maintain the car? One bumper touch, that's 10,000 out of your pocket. Ask me how I know. So you slowly start to realize there are better ways to do different types of cars. And yeah, I mean, let's take an exotic for example. Like if you really want to start pushing into it's a good example. I really like the S63 Coupe. I think it's one of the last good Mercedes cars that were ever made. That is a car that's going to hold its 60K or 50K base value over time. And when you get that car, you can calculate, okay, well, it's past year 4. There's no more, there's just nostalgia value. There's no warranty on the car. They don't even make the car anymore. So essentially that 60K value is now just depreciating based off the condition and mileage of the car. That is it. And you could honestly make the argument that mileage is condition for the car. It's part condition, right? Now, with that being said, that's a car that you can calculate. Hey, if I drive X amount, it'll be worth this amount in a few years, whatever, That's a great car to get a used finance on. Why? Because if you didn't and you tried to lease it, when it was new, you'd be paying a ridiculous amount on lease, and they would never, ever, ever work with you on any MSRP discounts. You might get 5% if you're lucky, which honestly, off a $200,000 car is not going to help you, just to be frank. So, yeah, I mean, the way I would start to look at these things is the car you're getting, is the system you're using beneficial towards an exotic car or a daily driver? Like not even a daily driver, but an everyday sort of car. Like is it sub 100K? Is it sub 150K? If the car is higher than that and you want to make lease payments on it, good for you. I mean, I don't really know if too many cars you lease and would hold their value like that, Maybe 911s, maybe Porsche 911s, but even then most people that get those would buy it. It'll hold its value for such a long time. So that's the way that you can maintain that, like I like to call 80% success rate. Yes, you're never going to be at 100% success rate had you kept the car for 10 years and kept a beater and like saved up $1 million and all that stuff. But life is short. When you think about life over the long run, you have a couple of phases where you can really live and enjoy. And so when you start to think about it, hey, like 10 years from now, what am I going to want? 15 years from now, what am I going to want? Maybe you have a house, you have a kid. Maybe that's not the time to drive around, rip around the M3. But maybe now is the time to take advantage of, hey, I really always wanted a 5 Series from BMW. Okay, well, there's no reason that you shouldn't get it if the problem is pricing, monthly, etc. What if your goal is you want to achieve a fleet of cars? Maybe you don't have to wait for that. Maybe you don't have to save for that. Maybe you already have the money and the tools required to get that garage, you know? And that's really what I started to realize is if you start to look at this and use a different system of how to approach the car deal, you shouldn't pay cash for your next car. You shouldn't lease. You shouldn't finance. You should use the arbitrage method, you know? If you're going to get a lease, get MSRP discount, stack incentives, get a high residual program. How do you do it? Click the link below. I'll help you get it. But, you know, like there are solutions available that will help you go super far. And if you're going to do a traditional lease deal, you're going to get fried. If you're going to do a used finance and you don't control the financing, you don't avoid the insurance office, you don't do a PPI on the car, pre-purchase inspection, you don't make sure the car is running flawlessly, you don't calculate maintenance costs, you don't figure out an exit strategy. How are you going to get out of this car without getting tanked on depreciation? You are cooked. It's over for you. You know, like, and most people, maybe you don't care, but it's not going to work for you if your car is over 50K, 60K, 70K, 80K, 100K, 200K. How is that going to work? You're going to be burning money. And if you want to burn money, then just click off the video. This isn't for you. This is for those dudes that decide like, hey, I want a really slick car, right? How do I go about getting it? What's the first frame? What's the paradigm shift I need in order to be getting that car? And that's when you start to implement this system. Maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't. I mean, there's tons of ways to look at this. This is something that I've been doing that really started to enhance my deal capability instead of just looking at this from, you know, what is my monthly payment? What's the money I'm going to be paying long run? The first thing I do is how can I avoid the depreciation curve? And then we look at, okay, based on this depreciation curve, there's just no way I'll be able to do monthly payments on a lease because it just doesn't make sense. On a lease, you're paying the depreciation. Next, okay, now we're going to go for a finance. Or maybe, why would I wait for the car to hit the depreciation, end of the depreciation curve? The depreciation curve never would have been that bad anyways, so maybe I should lease it. Say, for example, a 7 Series. Do you want to pay $500 a month or $600 a month and drive a 7 Series around with 10K miles for 2 years? That's a pretty freaking sick deal. So you have to look at it from the car. What are the incentives? What's the car like? What are my opportunities? What's my perspective? How far can I go with this car? What's the likelihood of me achieving this deal? And to be honest, getting a lot of these cars suck. Like, it doesn't matter if you have an email template or you know the incentives. Ultimately, the dealer still has to sell you that car. So when you start to realize all of this, you come to the conclusion it takes grind, it's a hard work, you know. There are people that can do this for you. I'm one of them. I have a team with me. We can achieve the deals that you're looking for. We can definitely get you any type of car. Any lease is what we specialize in. If you want to do finance, we can help you consult. You know, we can do like a quick 20-minute call, but really, guys, I mainly focus on leases. I have found that that is the best way for the vast majority of you guys. You guys are going to want to start with some leases. And then as you build that garage, as you build out your fleet of cars, that's the time when we can work with you to help you get those exotics. But for most of you guys, I'm assuming you're probably going to want a lease anyways. And so let us help you build out your garage stress-free. You don't have to send email templates. You don't have to worry about the incentives. You don't have to worry about the best frame to approach the car because we'll tell you. If you don't know which cars to get, don't worry. I have a whole roster of them. If you don't know what cars drive like, don't worry. I also know exactly what they drive like. So I can guide you to not only the best cars, I can guide you to what they drive like, what you're going to like, based off kind of what you already been driving, etc. I usually have a good frame. No stress, no hassle, no headache, no crying for incentives, nothing. You know, all you got to do, tell me the type of car you want. I'll make it happen for you. I'll get you that best deal, and you won't be able to find that deal anywhere else. Plain and simple. That's one way to go about it. Or, you know, if you decide this is like a hobby thing, you want to learn, just ask me questions, shoot me DMs, or Google it, Edmunds, Google, AI, I don't know. You know, there's tons of different options to help achieve your goal. But really, if there's one thing that I can have you take away from this, I really want you guys to start thinking about, what is my long-term plan for this car? How is this going to impact me over the long run? Do I want to get the best deal, or do I want to sacrifice a little bit of money but still get that opportunity cost, right? Still getting the enjoyment and the fun. Maybe you don't lose over the long run. Maybe you win, you know? And that is the key. Is it an exotic? Then it's got to be a finance. Is it a daily driver? I would probably pick a daily driver that I could lease, you know? So that way I always have the latest and greatest tech, keeping up with the latest cars. I don't really have to worry about maintenance, struggling, crying about the car. So there's a lot of different frames. There's a lot of different paradigms, and I can help you with each one of them. Just click the link below if you're interested for any of that. That's it for today, guys. As always, take care until the next one.